As we mentioned, this is just an opportunity for them to kind of get their drafts ready to go, get their synergy one last go round before Valencia.
Rival really want to just display how clean they can perform leading up to Valencia. They want to make sure they're still top of their game, so any opposition that they play against, they still should be taking very seriously.
Robin, the ban by Naventic, and Kernanos. Chang'e, the ban from Rival. Chang'e's really fallen out of the ban favor, and Pick for that matter, but Rivals seem to still be a little worried about it.
I think that that's more so a bit of a target ban towards Naventic. They could potentially be looking to favor that Chang'e in the jungle and mid lane still, so easier for Rival to recognize other players on the enemy team and look to take away some comfort picks from them.
Well, that leaves open Osiris. That's immediately the first pick for Naventic. Now Rival, they've got a couple opportunities here. Bologna is on the table, Fafnir as well, Terra, and it is going to be the Fafnir here.
And I think that the Fafnir provides excellent laning pressure as well as that setup potential. Rival love to play aggressive if they can, and pairing that alongside the Soul, that's already pretty scary in regards to objectives.
Yeah, plenty of damage. Could be in the mid lane there for Rival or the Hunter role. Just got to wait and see. Naventic will enter back with a Terra. I think that's a pretty strong selection here. Usually once Fafnir is off the board, Terra and Khepri and Ganesh are usually the next few on a team's mind. It's going to be Rom trying to have that late game potential in the duo lane.
And with the Osiris, I think that Naventic can kind of get away with this Terra-Rom composition because Osiris is going to have enough early lane pressure in that Soul lane, or at least hopefully have enough early lane pressure for the Terra to kind of just farm things up until the mid-game stride.
Bologna is the pick for Rival just before the second ban phase. Gnome going to be taking that into the solo. So now Rival could be banning out some mid laners, and immediately the Aphrodite. Again, a pick that's clearly targeted at what Naventic like to do.
And it's healers. We've seen Naventic have a lot of success in the past on these healer gods. True. So it's just significantly easier for Rival to not have to worry about either of these.
Could be another healer here. Hell. Hey, I did it. Yeah, Rival really does not want to worry about any sort of healing. Though Odin is still available. Could have baited Naventic into a pick like that, but decide against it. Instead, just going to make sure that there's basically no healing left. I mean, Cupid, no, they have Rom already, though we have seen Cupid mid in the past. Guan Yu, Guan Jungle, could be the play here, but immediately Rival going with the Nemesis, just in case Naventic want to go with that healer warrior in the jungle.
And I like the decision here by Rival to opt for the Nemesis just to slightly deter them from that route. It's going to be a Hun bots on the side of Naventic, and realistically, even with the Odin being available, not wanting to deal with healers is completely understandable, although you can't get rid of them all. Isis still has a little bit of that burst sustain.
And Terra has some as well, but I like this Hun bats Isis composition. Isis can do pretty well up against Fafnir, lay down that circle of protection, immediately gets a little bit of a charge whenever Fafnir starts that Draconic Corruption transformation, so decent pick there. And we saw how good 50 Meter Fly was able to play this Isis in game number 2 of the last set. Hu Yi rounds it off here for Rival, who have really got an insanely strong composition. I mean, you look at every character they've picked is probably in the top 3 in terms of value in their role.
And I think that Rival have an excellent draft just when you consider Fafnir plus 2 Hunter-esque characters is always, almost always, a good look and a good way to go, especially since they'll have Rapio to ensure that they can burst down anybody with his ultimate.
Rapio, one of the premier EU console players, but Rival has had a change recently. This has been a roster that was together for the most part. They traded out Zenborn for Jacob HL a while back coming into Season 4, but it was always Atonement in that duo lane. Now they've got Dobson, so a new look for Rival's duo lane. How different can an ADC just sit in the lane and farm to the late game and barely do anything anyways, right, Taco? I mean, how big of a difference can this be?
It can play a big difference in competitive simply because at a competitive level, you're typically left alone to farm, sure, but when team fights come into play, you're kind of relying on your Hunter to have solid positioning, or at least safe enough positioning to where they can still freehand cast and deal the damage that they need to deal, as well as just, you know, surviving. You don't want to have to constantly be peeling for them because typically it's the mage getting bursted down.
Yeah, we deserve peel more than Hunters anyways. You guys do 1 million damage with each auto attack.
You have no idea.
Oh, please, don't even get me started. Naventic gets the invade on the right-hand side, strips away the speed buff. Beast Feast and Ribiax do that themselves. Then Beast Feast comes over and finishes off the blue buff as well. So it's Naventic a little bit in the lead, but with Rival likely to secure and will do so, that Fire Elemental means that Beast Feast is the one with the level lead over Rapio, though once he gets just one minion in this solo lane, Rival's jungler will ding level 3.
And I think that Rival are just going to be looking to farm this out or stress advantages if they have them, but if they can't find any, no need for them to put themselves out of position early on. Nemesis and Soul, even the Bologna can have a little bit of a tougher time against this Bots Osiris combination early on, so it's better to just play it safe.
Especially with the Isis as well in that mid lane. I mean, you mentioned it in the last game. Isis clears just about better than anyone in the game in the mid lane early on, and Soul takes a little bit to become relevant in terms of clear. It takes her a little bit longer for that Stellar Burst to start one-shotting the waves, so Beast Feast and Aribiax have done a good job of utilizing that pressure, clearing off their own red buff. Aribiax is able to solo that. That's plenty of farm in the early game for a mid-mage to be able to solo a big buff camp like that.
And gotta appreciate everything that Naventic is trying to do in response with applying some pressure at Dobson and Jacob actually getting a lot of poke here onto Bradley. And now Naventic are just gonna have to back off the lane.
But Bradley does have 2 health pots still, and of course that Terra Monolith to heal himself back up a little bit. At the cost of getting the Oracles, I'd say that was worth it for Naventic. They've done a good job of keeping this duo lane pushed for the most part. It's been basically in Naventic's favor the entire time.
The troll route there from the Terra dash. That's always a fun one when you're just stuck inside of that temporarily.
It's what Terra does best, man. Locks you down and also provides that global movement speed and heal to the team with that Terra's Blessing. That's why we see her so heavily prioritized. Rival once more on time for the Fire Elementals. Usually this is what you see the good teams do, is prioritize these neutral objectives. Naventic got the Oracles on the left-hand side, but those Fire Elementals worth a little bit more farm in the early stages, and that's why we see Rival start to prioritize those a little bit more heavily.
You can't blame Rival either. I mean, having the Fire Elemental control is huge, and now it's going to be Watson actually aggressing onto Arabiax. Ultimate from Rapio, not going to be able to help clean him up, though, as the bots just came in so clutch.
Very nice ultimate there out of Beast Feast to peel for Arabiax. A little surprised at how much Jacob AKHL could just walk forward and hit the ice with that hammer. There was a wave right on top of him and didn't even realize he was there. But either way, good plays out of Naventic, get their mid laner out of danger. No first blood quite yet because of a nice Aegis and the good Hunbat's ult.
If Rapio had gotten his ultimate off onto Arabiax before Watson went in, I think that they might have been able to secure that kill.
I agree with you. I mean, just taking away that protection shred and that burst of HP probably means that Arabiax never gets a chance to use the Aegis. And even if he does, doesn't get a chance to use the Circle of Protection afterwards. So a little bit of miscommunication drops Rival a potential first blood bounty onto the Isis, which is basically what you want to do against that mid laner is kill her early and kill her often. Because once Isis falls behind, it's very difficult to claw your way back in.
And I also kind of just realized that Watson hasn't had a chance to back yet. He opted for the Boomba start alongside of this Soulstone, so he's still waiting to farm out his boots before electing to back.
Has very little mana, but Soul, one of the few mages that can excel without use of mana, even in the early stages, though of course items enhance that capability with extra power and attack speed, with Soul passive going off of total power available to you. Rival has had every other member back so far and finish off their boots. Watson now thinking about joining the party, but Arabiax is the one in trouble. Rapio started to do it all by himself, and he will. First blood goes Rival's way. Rival's Rapio does not have any purification beads, but that Hunbat's ultimate, just not enough follow-up there. Because what follow-up is there to give? I mean, it's Hunbats and a Terra. There's not a whole lot of damage in the early game.
The Terra clap.
Ah, yes.
The stun.
That could have done it. That would have been the big burst of damage that Naventic needed. Rival's jungler does a great job there of just recognizing that Arabiax is food without purification beads or Aegis available. Was able to take the 1v1 and find the easy kill.
I think that it's more so the purification base that might find things a little bit more difficult for Arabiax, because he's having a really difficult time avoiding Jacob and these Fafnir hammers.
He's done a good job thus far. The new, not new, but one of the more recent additions to Rival. Dobson taking that title away from Jacob with his recent addition to the roster. The the jungle, mid, and solo still staying the same from last year. Rapio, Watson, and Gnome, these guys have been around for quite some time. Jacob going to juke out that Spirit Ball and also the stun from Terra. Shows Beast Feast the hammer for his troubles, and Hunbat's going to have to jump away.
His health.
Yeah.
That's a solid amount of poke from Rapio on that slice and dice already.
And already off to a pretty good lead, though still the same level, at least for the time being, as the Hunbats, but it's Watson who's got the bigger lead over Ribiax, 2 levels on this Soul. And as we mentioned, Ice is one of those characters that you do not want to fall behind on. Soul, one of the characters that feels really, really good once you get ahead.
And another aspect to consider as well is that you kind of go with the Isis because you're looking to secure those objectives early on. When you're falling this far behind on the Isis, you don't really get the ability to do that anymore. But a Soul still has just as much potential, if not more now, for Watson to be able to look for those early Gold Furies.
The burst potential on Soul certainly excellent, even in the early stages. Beast Feast and Stun Wave so low they can't even help out a Ribiax who's getting chased down again. Rival gonna dice him up with the second ability. Gnome does get hit by that Fear No Evil and good damage onto the Soul Laner, and Stun Wave's going for it with the Lord of the Afterlife, and he will put Naventic on the board. Watson immediately answering back with the Stellar Burst Supernova combination. Beast Feast just able to dash away. Rapio can say the same out of the jungle until Watson hits him with the beautiful Stellar Burst. Perfect play there out of Rival's mid laner, and he's going to be able to escape after some good peel from Jacob HL.
It looks like Jacob might get turned on, but it's going to be Bradley actually just looking to try and potentially cut off Watson. They're not done giving up the chase on this one yet. Watson doesn't realize that they're wrapping around him.
There's a stun waiting. The root actually going to miss, and the Disapparate is in time. Now Bradley's the one who's got to be a little bit worried because he took a couple tower shots. Bracer of Undoing was necessary to save the support's life.
Burning his Bracer, though, for a chase of that long is also just meaning that he has to back. He's going to be missing farm. This could potentially also spell a Gold Fury opportunity for Rival. I think they're going to play it a little bit more passive, though, and just kind of wait things out.
Watson did have to back, and that's a lot of the objective damage like you were mentioning, so I think that Bradley doesn't have to worry too much about giving up a Gold Fury while he's heading back from base. Already actually has not backed quite yet, so now I agree with you. I think that if Bradley would have backed right away, there wouldn't have been a big window for Rival, but luckily for Naventic, Rival will take it.
And luckily for Naventic, Rival, I think, also weren't aware of it, but not luckily for Naventic. Here's Ribiax. He's seen this one before, getting aggressed on yet again by Rival, and it does seem as though there's no mercy whatsoever for the slight disconnect.
You know what? I don't have a problem with that. I know some people do, but you're out here trying, Naventic's out here trying to stay in the Pro League. They're trying to stay out of that bottom seed going into relegations. And there's money on the line, man. Like, sorry. I'll send Watson a message and say, sorry, dog, but...
Send him some flowers.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. Scrims are a different story. Scrims, it's extra for practice. No one cares. Like, you don't need to be taking those. But in a situation like this, in a competitive setting, if you're not taking that kill, I'm kind of questioning how much you want to win.
Face planting into the T2 tower.
Hey, man. Like, yeah, clearly.
I don't have an issue with it either. I just think it's hilarious.
Misplay. I mean, that's just the way it is. I know some people, there was a big debate long ago about whether teams should take those DC kills or use their pauses for the other side when it was allowed. No longer the case now. But from my perspective, as a former player, I mean, I would take those every day of the week. But that's just because I'm not getting many kills if I don't take those.
Even, so like
oh, yeah. Ranked is ruthless, man. I'm absolutely taking those in ranked. Are you kidding
every
me?
single time, yeah. Because I know that if the second that I DC, I'm dying.
Oh, yeah.
That's the thing.
Hey.
Is that, like, I have no mercy whatsoever. I'm getting spam left the entire time, too.
Look, all is fair in love and elo. Like, everyone knows that. It's a time-torn saying. That isn't a saying either. Let's get back into game, because who knows what's going on out here. And now Watson is going to respawn after reconnecting. And Naventic going to use this opportunity to try and go for the Gold Fury. They're down 2-4 in kills, but they have that. No, Ice Ultimate is already used because of Rival's aggression onto the mid laner. Rapio looking for a Ribiax, and that Huyi Ultimate is doing work. Dobson's going to claim his first kill of the game, but Beast Feast does find Rapio on the backside. Stunwave makes a good rotation, cutting off the escape of Dobson, forcing him into the Purification Beads. Gnome looking to help out his new Hunter with that Eagles Rally, but Crisis Motion says you can't peel this. That Rom Snipe going to be able to put number 4 on the board for Naventic. Gnome Gnome still looking to chase down this Rom. The disarm, not enough to find it. The bludgeon is missed. Good juke there by Motions, and Bradley with the well-timed stun.
That was a great stun by the Terra, saving the life of his Hunter. Now he's just going to be dancing there in the dual lane side. Watson, though, he's back, he's up and running, and I think that Rival are gonna plan to play this one a little bit more grouped around each other. I don't think that fight would have gone in Naventic's direction in the slightest had it not been for Watson's disconnect, so I think that they just pressure the advantage.
I mean, this is, like we mentioned, I've got no problem with it, but you also have to keep in mind, maybe Naventic just poked the angry bear.
Oh, I definitely think that they poked a very angry bear. Rival, I think that they've qualified for Valencia already, but they don't want to have those kind of circumstances happen to them. And so I definitely think they'll be out for blood now.
I mean, Rival hasn't dropped a regular season game during Season 4. They were perfect during the Spring Split, if I remember correctly, and perfect thus far, so I anticipate they want to keep that record clean. And if they didn't really want to win before, if that angered them, I imagine that they'll want to win now.
It went to AirVX. You can't really blame the man for, like...
Oh, he's been getting destroyed.
He's been getting destroyed. I don't really fault him too much for cleaning that one up with the Spirit Ball.
Look, 1-3 looks infinitely better than 0-3. 0-3, you're like, what is this guy doing? 1-3, you're like, hey, I feel bad for him. He's getting focused down. He becomes a victim instead of just messing up. I agree with you. Gnome has kind of handled this solo lane well enough, as has Stunwave. Not a lot of fireworks on this side of the map. Very different from the Era Enix matchup we saw in the last set. Rival, Rapio was trying to hold that for Gnome. Stunwave just comes in and says, oh, thanks for holding that for me, buddy.
Held it for two of them.
Yeah, that was for me, right? Bradley going to find the stun onto Jacob HL, but not a lot doing off of it. Beast Feast, again, taking a lot of poke. Likes to position pretty aggressively from what I can see on this Hunbats.
And nothing wrong with going for a little bit more aggressive on the bots. I think that Beast Feast is really going to need to be a heavy initiating factor for Naventic because their draft is pretty solid. It's just they don't have a whole lot of engage.
That's true. Really relying on a blink engage probably from Hunbats, though. Despite being level 13, Beast Feast is not backed yet. There's a Terra ultimate coming out of Bradley as they try and wrap around onto Rival, but look at the mobility. Watson's got Disapparate, Rapio's got the double dash, and Jacob HL, well, he's a tank. Can't kill him. Stunwave's here as well. Dobson gonna throw a Ricochet his way for his troubles. And Rival expended nothing in order to get out. Actually, cancel that. Watson did have to use his Purification Beads, it looks like, so at least Naventic gets something for their aggression, and now they're trying to get something else. The Gold Fury is the call. Ribiax does have that circle of protection. Down it goes onto the Gold Fury. Dobson drops his ult as well. Gold Fury goes down, and it's Rival who's stealing away. Rapio on the backside's gonna clean up one. It's actually Jacob who gets credit. Gnome gonna find a Ribiax, and the rest of Rival continuing to push forward. Naventic had the circle of protection down, Taco, but just couldn't execute the secure.
And I think that that was a well-timed ultimate as well by Dobson, dropping the Suns onto that Gold Fury, really causing a lot of damage. Rival, I think we're going to pursue that fight no matter what.
That's true. Even if, you're right, even if Naventic get the Gold Fury there, Rival probably wins the team fight afterwards. Certainly win in terms of towers so far because they just got the first one of the game. Tier 1 tower in mid goes down. That's 500 gold across the board for Rival. Now they're looking at the portal team, and Beast Feast is here and has that Fear No Evil ultimate. Down it goes, and that's going to zone everyone away. Good steal there from Naventic, getting one back on a Rival.
And I think that was a really solid secure as well by Beast Feast, kind of just recognizing, hey, I've got my bot's ultimate, I can probably secure this. So I think it was a really solid response by Naventic.
Getting something when Rival took the Gold Fury and that Tier 2 tower, or Tier 1 tower in mid, I should say. Need something to get yourselves back into the game. Naventic certainly not too far behind right now, down about 2,000 gold for the time being, but Rival's late game draft much better in my mind than that of Naventic. I mean, they've got a Hunter that can do well in the late game, not quite as well as Rom, but pretty close in the Hu Yi. And then, of course, you've got Soul in the mid lane and Nemesis in the jungle. That's scary stuff.
I think for me, it's really just this Isis pick for Naventic. I just don't see who helps her live against Rival.
Terra's Blessing? That's about it.
That's pretty much it, though, because Beast Feast is going to need to be using his ultimate if he wants to try and help his team overall set up kills. Crisis is an ADC, and then Stunwave, sure, you can run at people, but Rival kind of have a counter to that.
It's about all you got, exactly. I mean, there's plenty of CC on the side of Rival, and plenty of CC on the Naventic side, but I understand what you're saying, where a lot of that CC is going to be dedicated to getting into the backline of Rival, not necessarily helping out your own backline. Though Ribiax on the Isis does have some pretty decent self-peel for one person, but can it find it difficult to get away from characters like Nemesis, who are incredibly mobile and can chase you very well.
And that's pretty much all that I think Rapio wants to do, is just chase down RBX on this Isis pick. It's already happened 4 times so far, where Rival kind of just runs him down. And I think as the game progresses and as Rival get more farm and more items, it's only going to become increasingly difficult for him to survive.
Can I just say that Racer bundle ward scares me every time?
Oh, because of the squeaking wheels?
Yeah. I'm like, is someone crashing into the studio right now? What is happening?
I remember when it first came out and I was doing a cast with F. And there was that screeching sound in the background. He just starts looking around, like panicking. You know?
Yeah,
he's like, what was that?
Someone's crashing into man, the sound department really killed it on that one. That sounds really realistic. Everyone's got those like weird things that just scare them every time, and that's mine, at least for the time being. Someone needs to be, I'm sure Ribiax is
But who uses that ward, though? Seriously.
Who uses any ward but Boxcat ward? Shoutouts to Boxcat ward.
Boxcat ward is great.
The great is an understatement. It's literally the best ward in the game. Watson using that Disapparate once more to his advantage, making sure that he can get out of any potential CC chain. One of the reasons we see Soul be so prioritized in the mid lane is because of her safety. Disapparate not only giving you that immunity after a short channel time, but slow immunity during it and extra movement speed during the channel. So this is an ability that I think a lot of people started to undervalue once the Fatalis effect was removed. Everyone was saying that it's not a very good ability, and I think it's been kind of proven that that's just not the case. It still does a lot for these mid lane mages.
The damage that you want, and right now it's Crisis dealing a ton of damage into Dobson. Both of these hunters elected for the Odysseus bow after the shifters.
But Dobson's got the 2-level lead, and Crisis still able to take that boxing fight over him, going for the same style of build, but the Bumba's Mask for Dobson, the big difference maker, I think, in terms of why we don't see him be a little bit farther ahead in terms of his build.
I mean, I can't blame Dobson, though. I actually think that Bumbas in certain scenarios can play off pretty well, considering that if you're permitted to get the solo farm on that side of the map, you're not taking an increase, like you're not going to be missing parts of your health bar from the poke of the buffs. You're going to be able to go back into lane full health, except you clear out your jungle. But
at what point do you sell that to get the next power spike? Because I think a lot of the power from getting this Bumba's Mask early on is you maybe get... Do you get that 200 gold worth of value? Maybe. I think in terms of conserving potions, maybe you get that 200 gold worth of value, but not necessarily in terms of just the gold split that you get. As Bradley's in some trouble. Rapio lays down the ultimate, as does Watson, and that supernova just explodes Bradley RJ. Now Crisis has to roll away from the pressure from Jacob HL. There's a perfect timing because the Gold Fury has just respawned and Jacob's in that dragon form. Ribiax wants to get in there and use that circle of protection, but Gnome creating the wall, not letting him through. Stunwave and Beast Feast forced back by the rest of Rival, who want to continue the chase instead of the objective. But Ribiax has to use that circle of protection defensively. You can tell that's all Rival wanted. As soon as they get the circle of protection, they turn back and head towards the Gold Fury.
Circle of protection as well as his Aegis. No bracers remaining either on the side of Naventic, and now it's Rapio looking to zone away everybody from Naventic.
And he's doing it successfully. Can't zone this though. Crisis Motions almost got that Gold Fury, but it does go Rival's way. Another gold spike for the European veteran. Stunwave on the run. Does have his ultimate, just in case. Made it to use it here. He's getting CC chained pretty well. He will indeed. And Beast Feast drops the Fear No Evil as well. So now Rival, they lost this Portal Demon to the Fear No Evil last time. With that on cooldown, they know this is free as it gets. Another Portal Demon goes Rival's way this time.
Every single ultimate on the side of Naventic was expended in a defensive way. Not a single one of their players was able to use their ult aggressively, and I think that that's already starting to show kind of foreshadowing for some of the flaws in the draft.
Look at this. Rival, they just say, you guys aren't going to respect the Fire Giant call. We're just going to go for it. Everyone from Naventic just backed off, assuming that Rival was only going to take the Portal Demon and nothing else. Crisis Motions on the left-hand side got the tier 1, but lost the fire for it. Stun Wave has no ultimate, just use it defensively, as Taco pointed out. The Bologna ultimate and the Nemesis ultimate going to be good enough as Gnome finds his second on the game.
That stun from the Bologna ultimate because of the tether, that's just like one of those little giggle moments.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was funny.
Good.
It's like you expect to be the one stunning and then you get counter-stunned.
You have an odd sense of humor if you think that's funny.
I do.
It's sad.
No.
I feel bad.
It's entertaining.
It's entertaining watching Rival just dismantle another European console team. They've been doing it for quite some time. As I mentioned, they haven't lost a regular season game in Lord knows how long. I mean, I can't remember the last time they lost one, and they just never seem to be able to find that same momentum at LAN. They always seem to have some trouble getting their footing. They've had some close sets. They have had some victories, but no set victories on American soil. But maybe with this LAN being in Europe, that's what they need, the home turf.
I think they kind of suffer the same fate as Oceanic SMITE, where you can be the best in your region, but you can't necessarily progress because you don't have anybody who's better than you to help you hit that extra motion, like that extra tick above.
I mean, look at what Energy has done in Europe. And I really do credit how dominant they've been over the last 2 years for why Europe as a region is so good right now on the PC side of things. Whenever you've got that team that is just better than everyone else, then every team is just trying to reach that top rung, and all of a sudden that ladder starts to become endless. You're just consistently climbing against one another and pushing each other up in terms of practice. And I really do think that's why there's a big gap in terms of on the PC side of things about why Europe is so much better than North America right now, is that there's just the dominant team was in Europe and everyone was practicing against them, and then the team that got good by practicing against Energy practiced against another team, and it just kind of transforms from there. Kind of say the same about North America on the console side of things. I mean, with Obey over there, Astral Authority, you've got really, really strong teams that even the bottom end squads are practicing against and trying to match up to, and in turn that raises their level.
And I think that that's always just a good motivational factor to have when it comes to competitive SMITE, is just when you know that you consistently need to perform, otherwise you're just going to lose. It really does help people as far as striving and just finding that extra drive to be better.
I mean, you see it all the time in traditional sports. You got a player that's pretty good. Well, let's bring in a player who's also pretty good in that same position and see who takes that motivation and gets better because of it. There was a Hunbats there at one point in this game.
He wanted to ult.
He wanted to, but he didn't because he was dead. 10 now for Team Rival. Rapio got himself another one. 10-4 in kills, and it's Rival up about 11,000 gold. Got the Fire Giant for another 50 seconds or so. Bradley RJ trying to make it happen here for Naventic. Right side Phoenix Siege begins, and immediately the Terra is just gone. The damage is too much from Rival. The right side Phoenix under siege. Watson lays down the ultimate right on top of a Ribiax. See you later, Isis. There's some chicken wings for dinner for Rival tonight. A dozen in total for them. And they immediately turn their attention towards the Titan.
Wait, there's 3 members dead on the side of Naventic and only 1 Phoenix, and they ended the game. I think